The Los Angeles skyline shimmered under a cloud-streaked winter dusk, the kind of evening where the city looked more like a mirage than a metropolis. Sunset Boulevard was its usual chaos: brake lights, honking horns, drivers gripping their steering wheels like lifelines. Among them, standing out like a spaceship in a sea of sedans, was a matte black Valor hypercar X8, sleek, low, and immobile. The engine had died 20 minutes ago. Not sputtered. Not faltered. Died. Silently and completely. Inside the luxury cocoon of leather, carbon fiber, and ambient lighting, Logan Whitmore was seething. He glanced at his Rolex. 7:15. He was already 15 minutes late for a private dinner with Saudi investors at the Belvoir Hotel. A $7 billion real estate deal hung in the balance, land in Nevada, permits in hand, oil-backed capital ready to flow. The kind of deal that made or broke legacies. And he was stuck. In traffic. In a car no one could fix. Not even the concierge mechanics from Valor, who had just texted, "Sorry Mr. Whitmore, due to the ongoing storm and freeway blockages, emergency service is unavailable tonight. We apologize for the inconvenience." Inconvenience, he growled. Do they know who I am? He hurled the phone into the passenger seat. His jaw clenched so tightly it ached. The lights on his custom dashboard blinked wildly, a chaotic dance of red and yellow. One of them blinked a mocking message: engine error, undiagnosed. Of course it's undiagnosed, Logan muttered. This thing's practically AI on wheels. He stepped out into the drizzle, tailored shoes sinking slightly into a muddy patch near the curb. Rain clung to his expensive wool coat. People passed by, some glancing at him, most ignoring. A few took out phones to capture a billionaire pacing beside his dead hypercar. And then, an old 1998 Dodge Ram truck rolled up behind him and stopped. It was blue? Or green? The paint was so weathered it was hard to tell. The driver's side door opened with a metallic creak, and a man stepped out mid-30s, lean frame, a simple navy jacket with oil stains on the sleeves. His boots were worn, but his posture was steady. From the passenger seat, a boy 12, maybe 13, peeked out, wide-eyed and curious. Need some help? The man asked calmly. Logan turned slowly, eyes narrowing. No offense, but this isn't a busted Corolla in East LA. It's a Valor X8. Worth more than your truck and probably your house combined. The man gave a half smile. So I've heard. But dead's dead. Doesn't matter how much it cost. Logan let out a sharp laugh. You think you can fix this? Do you even know what you're looking at? I might, the man said, stepping forward. Name's Ethan.
I run a mobile mécanique service.
Used to work for Tesla, back when we still got our hands dirty. Logan tilted his head. Tesla? Really? And now you're roadside fixing jalopies. Ethan's expression didn't change. Life has its curves. The boy opened the door and stepped out, holding a thermos. Dad, you want some coffee? Later, Aiden, Ethan said gently. Logan's eyes flicked between them, father and son, rain clinging to their jackets, standing calmly next to the mechanical corpse of his $1 million status symbol. He smirked. Tell you what. Let's make this interesting. You fix this car here and now, I'll write you a check for 50 grand.
No haggling, no delay.
But if you can't, you drop on your knees right here and say, I am a useless piece of junk who pretended to know machines. And say it loud enough for everyone on Sunset to hear. Aiden flinched. Ethan placed a hand gently on his son's shoulder. No deal, Ethan said. Scared. Not scared. Just don't think a man's dignity should be traded for sport. Logan turned, raising his voice. Fine. You fix it, no money involved. Just tell me why the hell you're doing what you're doing. And I'll apologize, publicly. Shake hands in the rain and all that Hallmark stuff. Ethan paused, then nodded. Deal. He walked over to the Valor, gently popped the rear engine hatch, and peered inside. Logan leaned on a nearby traffic light pole, arms crossed. Good luck with that Frankenstein back there. The last guy who tried blew a fuse just looking at the schematic. Ethan didn't reply. His hands moved with measured precision. He took out a tablet from his tool bag, connected it to the main onboard diagnostic port, then opened the circuit casing. Looks like a thermal overload in the auxiliary power controller, he murmured. But that shouldn't shut down the core engine unless... He paused, traced a finger along a small circuit path, and frowned. That's it, he said to himself.
A feedback loop error.
Caused by a misaligned data sync between the smart throttle module and the regenerative brake override. Logan raised an eyebrow. In English, Doc Brown? Ethan turned. The car doesn't know whether to stop or go. So it decided to do neither. He took out a small soldering pen, a spare chip he'd custom printed a year ago, something he had built for a similar problem in an early Tesla prototype. Carefully, under the light of his flashlight and the quiet hum of passing traffic, he adjusted 2 connection points. 3 minutes later, the engine blinked green. Ethan stepped back. Try starting it, he said. Logan raised an eyebrow. He slid into the driver's seat, pressed the ignition. The car purred back to life, smooth, elegant, arrogant in its power. Just like before. Logan sat in silence, stunned. The cockpit filled with soft light again, like a resurrected god opening its eyes. He stepped out. Rain still falling. He looked at Ethan, really looked. Who are you? He asked. Ethan shrugged. Just someone who didn't want your kid to think all problems were unsolvable. Logan looked at Aiden. The boy smiled faintly, eyes bright. My dad can fix anything, he said. Logan stood in the rain, silent. For the first time in a long time, he didn't feel like the richest man in the street. He felt small. To be continued. Logan stared at the man who had just resurrected his hypercar from what the best engineers in Beverly Hills had deemed unsalvageable. The storm that raged above Sunset Boulevard a few minutes ago seemed quieter now, or maybe it was just that the storm inside Logan was louder. Ethan was already packing up his tools, silent, methodical, unaffected by the power he had just displayed. Aiden stood beside him, proud but modest, as if this wasn't the first miracle his father had pulled off in a stranger's driveway. I have a question, Logan said, stepping forward. Ethan didn't look up. Shoot. You said you used to work at Tesla. That's not small time. Why are you doing this? Ethan paused, zipped up his toolcase, and finally met Logan's eyes. Because this lets me go home in time for dinner with my son. Logan blinked, almost offended by the simplicity of the answer. You gave up a 6-figure job for family dinners? No, Ethan said. I gave up a 6-figure job because when my wife was dying, she needed me more than they did. And after she passed, I realized my son would too. Aiden looked up at his father, the expression on his face one of quiet awe. For a moment, Logan felt a twinge of something unfamiliar, envy maybe, or discomfort at his own reflection in the comparison. You could have taken the money, Logan said, gesturing toward his wallet, still untouched on the passenger seat. $50,000 for 20 minutes of work. You're either a fool or a man with something to prove. Ethan smiled. I'm neither. But I won't lie, part of me did want to prove something. Not to you. To the world, maybe. Or maybe just to my son. Logan's eyes narrowed. You still want the wager? Ethan shook his head. I already fixed your car. That was enough.
No, Logan insisted.
Let's make it real. A different kind of bet. Ethan hesitated. Aiden looked from one man to the other. If you're so confident in your skills, how about this? Logan said. I bring you the toughest case my engineers have failed to solve. If you fix it, I don't just pay you. I offer you a place in my new electric vehicle initiative. Ethan raised an eyebrow. You? Doing electric vehicles? Logan gave a wry smile. You'd be surprised what public humiliation on social media can inspire. That video of you fixing my car, it's already at 2 million views. People love the David versus Goliath narrative. I didn't fix your car for views, Ethan said flatly. Of course you didn't, Logan replied. That's why it worked. But the truth is, I've been trying to start a green tech division in my company. I just didn't have the talent. Now, I think I've found it. So here's the wager, I'll bring you a prototype engine that 4 top engineers couldn't make run. If you can solve it, I give you the position, the salary, the flexibility. You set the terms. If you can't, you walk away with nothing. Ethan thought for a long moment. Then he looked down at Aiden, who simply nodded. Okay, Ethan said. But I have my own condition. Logan smirked. Name it. If I fix it, you start a technical apprenticeship program in your company. For people who didn't go to MIT. 4 ex-cons, for veterans, for single parents trying to get back on their feet.
Logan's smile faded.
He wasn't used to being counter-offered. But something in Ethan's voice told him it wasn't negotiable. You're serious, Logan said. As a heart attack. Logan folded his arms. You're a mechanic with a bleeding heart. And you're a CEO who thinks compassion is a liability, Ethan replied evenly. A moment passed. Then Logan extended his hand. You have 3 days. I'll have my assistant deliver the engine tomorrow. Ethan shook the hand. It was a firm grip, not aggressive, not submissive. Just solid. Unyielding. As Logan got back into his newly revived hypercar, he paused at the open window. You know, he said, when I first saw you, I thought you were just another broke guy in a broken truck. Ethan nodded. And now? Now I think you're the guy who might just fix more than engines. With that, Logan pulled away, tires whispering against the wet pavement. His taillights vanished into the LA night. Ethan and Aiden stood in the quiet that followed. The boy spoke first. You're really going to do it, huh? I have to, Ethan said. Not because of the wager. But because if someone like him starts listening, then maybe others will too. Aiden grinned. You're going to be the engineer who teaches billionaires humility. Ethan chuckled. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. First, I have to teach one how to hire right. They loaded the tools into the back of their truck. As Ethan started the ignition, the dashboard flickered to life with a faint hum. Aiden leaned back, arms behind his head. Dad. Yeah. If you take that job, will you still have time for dinner? Ethan looked over, serious. Only on nights ending in Y. Aiden burst into laughter. And with that, the truck rolled away from Sunset Boulevard, trailing the faint smell of rain, solder, and something else. Change. To be continued. The next morning was gray, cold, and strangely quiet. Ethan stood at the front of his modest garage shop in East Pasadena, a converted warehouse with patched metal siding and a handmade wooden sign that read, Park Mobile Mechanics, honest work, fair price. The silence was broken by the rumble of a black SUV pulling up. 2 men in suits stepped out, neither of them speaking a word. One opened the back hatch and carefully wheeled out a large heavy-duty crate. On the side was a sticker, confidential prototype, Whitmore Motors /EVX Core Engine Unit Number 07. Ethan nodded to them, signed the delivery slip, and watched as they drove away without even a glance at the surroundings. Aiden stood beside him, eyes wide. Is that it? That's it, Ethan said. Let's move it inside. The crate was heavy. Too heavy for one man, but they managed, inch by inch, until the wheels rolled onto the shop floor. Ethan opened the top and removed the protective coverings. There, surrounded by foam and steel clamps, was one of the most advanced compact electric motor cores he had ever seen. It was beautiful, sleek, modular, minimalist. And dead. He ran his fingers over the casing, found the serial number etched under the cooling fins. His eyes lingered on the brand, Whitmore Motors, then moved to the design. It wasn't unfamiliar. In fact, it looked eerily similar. Dad? Aiden asked. Ethan didn't answer. His mind had already begun to drift. Back. 8 years ago, he had stood in a different lab, sterile and white, surrounded by people in lab coats with Stanford degrees and coffee-fueled ambition. He had been a lead systems engineer at Tesla, specializing in thermal regulation and torque stability for high-capacity EV motors. He had just finalized a breakthrough, a modular cooling system using graphene-infused synthetic oil, reducing motor overheating by 37%. They had celebrated. Olivia had brought him a cupcake with a single candle. You're going to change the world, she had whispered in his ear. He'd believed it. Then, months later, Olivia had collapsed in the middle of a science class. A migraine that wouldn't go away. Nosebleeds. Fatigue. Diagnosis, acute myeloid leukemia. Everything after that came in fragments. 4 bags. Hospital beeping. His own resignation letter typed at 2 a.m. Selling the house. Sleeping in hospital chairs. Aiden, 5 years old, drawing pictures beside his mother's bed. Hope. Then, nothing. The day she passed, Ethan had stopped looking at blueprints. He stopped thinking in volts and torque. The only thing that mattered was Aiden. Not changing the world. Just surviving it. He opened his eyes now, back in the present. The shop smelled of machine oil and coffee. The prototype sat there like a silent ghost of everything he had once believed in. Dad? Aiden asked again, quietly this time. Ethan nodded. Sorry. Let's get to work. For the next 6 hours, he didn't stop. He broke down the unit into modular components, photographed every layer, and began tracing the circuitry. By late afternoon, he had found the flaw, a heat buildup in the regenerative feedback loop causing the control unit to shut down automatically. It was a protection protocol, but it had been miscalibrated. A software engineer wouldn't have found it. A hardware engineer might have missed it. But Ethan was both. He scribbled adjustments on a whiteboard, muttering to himself. They over-engineered the cooling bridge, trying to solve a problem that didn't exist. But in doing so, they created one. Aiden brought him water and crackers. Ethan didn't eat. Night fell. The shop filled with shadows and soft orange light from the single overhead lamp. Aiden had curled up on the old couch in the corner, wrapped in a blanket. He was asleep, mouth slightly open, fingers still clutching a comic book. Ethan sat beside the engine, soldering tool in hand, making the final adjustment. As the wire sealed and the unit hummed softly in response, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. Not just the joy of solving a problem, but the weight of doing it for the right reason. He looked over at his son. That was the reason. The next morning, the engine was operational. It didn't just power on, it sang. When the test battery hit 100% efficiency at a load curve that had previously failed at 63%, Ethan leaned back and let out a long breath. It was done. By 9 a.m., he had written a detailed report, drafted proposed modifications, and shot a short video demonstration using his phone. He emailed it directly to Logan with the subject line, Engine 07, running clean. Then he closed the laptop, looked at his hands, scarred, steady, unshaken, and walked over to Aiden, who was now awake and brushing his teeth at the sink. Ready for school? Ethan asked. Aiden nodded. Did you win the bet? I didn't fix it to win, Ethan said. I fixed it because someone had to. Later that day, while dropping Aiden off at school, Ethan's phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number. You're in. Come to Whitmore HQ tomorrow. Let's talk terms. A second message followed, from the same number. Also, thank you. You didn't just fix the engine. You fixed something I didn't know was broken. Ethan looked out the window at the morning traffic, the street vendors, the school buses. He smiled, just slightly. It wasn't about redemption anymore. It was about rebuilding. One wire at a time. To be continued. The next morning, Ethan stood at the foot of Whitmore Tower in downtown Los Angeles. 45 stories of curved glass and polished steel rose into the sky like a corporate monolith. People in tailored suits flowed in and out of the revolving doors, phones pressed to ears, eyes focused, back straight. It wasn't a building, it was a performance. Ethan felt the weight of his denim jacket and oil-stained boots more than usual. He stepped inside. The lobby was marble and silence. A digital display floated above the reception desk, looping a promo video, Whitmore Motors, driving the future. Clean cities, electric cars, smiling families, an orchestral score. In the middle of it all, Logan's face appeared, smiling confidently at a camera. Ethan approached the front desk. The receptionist, a young woman in a blazer that probably cost more than Ethan's monthly rent, raised an eyebrow. Name? Ethan Park. I have a meeting with Logan Whitmore. She typed quickly, then froze. You're the mechanic? I suppose that's one way to describe me. A few seconds of silence. Take elevator C, top floor. Mr. Whitmore is expecting you. The elevator ride was silent. No music, just the hum of machinery and the whisper of numbers ticking upward. As the doors opened to the executive floor, Ethan stepped into a world of glass walls, wood-paneled floors, and abstract art. Logan was waiting in a private conference room, dressed in his usual sharp navy suit, a tablet in one hand and an espresso in the other. "You made it," Logan said. "I said I would." Logan gestured toward a seat. "Coffee? Water?"
I'm fine.
Logan sat down, set the tablet aside, and leaned forward.
I watched your video. Twice. The engine works.
Not just works, it performs better than our projections. You did what 4 MIT graduates couldn't.
Ethan nodded once.
That's not a reflection of intelligence.
It's a reflection of attention.
Logan laughed.
And humility, apparently.
He tapped the tablet and turned it toward Ethan.
We want you on board.
Head of Systems Integration for the EVX program. High 6-figure salary, full benefits, flexible schedule.
You name it.
Ethan didn't respond immediately. He looked at the view, city sprawled out below, distant mountains faint behind the morning haze.
I have conditions, he said. Logan raised an eyebrow. I figured you might. I want the apprenticeship program. Not a PR stunt. A real pathway. Open to people without degrees. To veterans. To single moms. To people no one else hires.
Logan leaned back, eyes narrowing.
You know this is a corporation, right? We don't run charity programs. You're launching a green tech division. Make it green in more than name. Silence. Then Logan smirked. You're not just an engineer. You're a crusader. I'm a father, Ethan replied. That's what changed me.
Logan was quiet for a long moment.
Then he nodded.
Fine. But if I do this, you'll make it work. You'll prove it's viable. And if it fails on your name, not mine.
Deal.
They shook hands again, this time less like rivals, more like co-conspirators.
Logan stood. You start tomorrow. But I want you to meet someone first.
He led Ethan down a hallway to a private lab.
Glass walls. Sparse furniture.
A single engine unit sat on a central platform, half dismantled. Inside stood a woman in a white lab coat, arms crossed, eyes sharp.
This is Dr. Riley Chen, Logan said. Head of research. She's skeptical of your miracle. Ethan extended a hand. Riley looked at it, then shook it once, curtly. You're the guy from the video, she said. I guess I am. She pointed at the prototype. That's engine 08. Similar to the one you fixed. Same problem. We haven't solved it yet.
Ethan walked over, hands behind his back, examining it without touching. The cooling loop is overcompensating again, he said after a moment. They used the same faulty calibration. Probably copied the error from Unit 07.
Riley frowned. That's not in any of the diagnostics. Because you're looking at numbers. I look at behavior. She folded her arms. We use data.
End data miss intuition.
Riley said nothing. Logan grinned. You two are going to get along great.
That afternoon, Ethan returned to his garage. He opened the front, took a long breath of machine oil and motor grease.
It smelled like home.
Aiden sat on a stool, doing homework.
How was it? He asked. Big building. Bigger egos. Did they hire you? Ethan nodded. I start tomorrow. Aiden looked up. Are we moving? Ethan sat beside him.
No.
We'll keep the shop. I'll go in a few days a week. But this is still ours. Aiden smiled. So, you fixed it? Ethan paused.
No.
I started fixing it. Outside, the sun dipped low.
A warm light spread through the shop, touching the old tools, the dusty shelves, and the boy with dreams too big for his age.
Tomorrow, the real work would begin. To be continued.
The first week at Whitmore Motors felt like stepping into a parallel universe. The lab was immaculate, the resources virtually limitless, and the technology top tier. Ethan had his own office, glass-walled minimalist, with a desk that adjusted to his posture and a screen the size of his workbench back home. But despite the shine, he felt a growing tension beneath the surface. Every day began with Riley Chen's scowl. You're late, she said on Wednesday morning.
I'm here at 8:58. We start at 8:30. No one told me that. I just did.
The tension between them was immediate, and not just about schedules.
Riley didn't trust him.
She didn't like how quickly Logan had elevated an outsider to a position of authority. She had spent years building a team, submitting proposals, navigating the slow bureaucracy of corporate innovation. And then overnight, a mechanic from East Pasadena was named head of systems integration.
Ethan wasn't blind to it. But he also wasn't interested in politics. Instead, he focused on the work. Engine Unit 08 was still unstable.
Riley's team had made incremental progress, but the core problem remained unresolved: temperature spikes under load, followed by emergency shutdowns. Ethan studied the diagnostics, ran real-time simulations, and rewrote part of the control firmware by hand.
By Friday, it ran smoothly. No spikes.
No shutdowns.
Just clean power delivery.
When the engine reached 95% efficiency in a live stress test, the lab fell silent.
Riley stood at the monitor, arms crossed, lips tight. "That's not possible," she said quietly. "You mean it wasn't?" Ethan replied.
She glanced at the code he had written, then at the engine, then back at him.
"You bypassed the secondary feedback loop. I refined it.
You were compensating for phantom data. It was never the loop, it was the voltage gate misreporting under strain."
Riley didn't respond. She simply nodded once and walked out. Ethan knew that look. It wasn't surrender. It was recalibration.
That night, Logan invited Ethan to dinner at a rooftop restaurant in West Hollywood. The kind of place with imported wine, sculpted plates, and staff who spoke in practiced whispers.
"You're making waves," Logan said, swirling his glass. "I'm solving problems. Same thing in this business." Logan leaned back, watching the skyline.
"We're months ahead of schedule because of you.
And not just technically. The board is suddenly interested. Investors are calling." "I thought you said this wasn't about PR."
"It's not," Logan said. "But that doesn't mean the attention hurts." Ethan paused, then asked the question that had been bothering him.
"Why me, Logan? You could have hired any number of engineers. What made you call back after the engine?"
Logan's smile faded. He set the wine glass down. "Because I saw something I lost a long time ago," he said.
"You didn't fix that car for money. You didn't show off.
You solved the problem because it needed solving. I built this company with that spirit, but somewhere along the way, it got polished out of me."
Ethan nodded slowly. "And now you want it back?"
Logan didn't answer directly. Instead, he changed the subject. "About your apprenticeship program, HR is pushing back. They say we need metrics, clear ROI. They don't like the idea of bringing in non-traditional hires."
Ethan didn't flinch.
"Then we make it work anyway."
"How?"
"I'll train the first 5 myself.
Hands-on. Trial basis.
No bureaucracy.
Just results."
Logan considered.
"If it works,
then we expand."
"Fine," Logan said. "I'll back it.
But if it fails, it's on you."
"It always is," Ethan said.
Back at the garage that night, Ethan found Aiden working on a science project.
"Building a wind turbine," Aiden explained. "It's for Earth Week. I want to make it power a light."
Ethan sat beside him, looking at the blades made from recycled plastic and the small generator motor he had salvaged from an old fan.
"You know," Ethan said, "you might be an engineer." Aiden grinned. "Only if I get to wear cool goggles."
They worked on the turbine together, late into the night. The next morning, Ethan arrived at Whitmore Motors and found an envelope on his desk.
No note.
No signature.
Inside were printed emails. Internal correspondence. Redacted names. But the meaning was clear.
Someone inside the company was blocking the apprenticeship program from the shadows, rerouting approvals, delaying paperwork, questioning Ethan's authority behind his back.
There was no proof. But the pattern was deliberate. Ethan leaned back, exhaling. He knew this game.
He had seen it before, in boardrooms, in labs, in the corners of companies where innovation was only allowed if it fit inside the existing hierarchy.
And someone didn't want that hierarchy shaken.
Later that day, he confronted Logan.
"You have a leak," Ethan said.
Logan skimmed the documents.
HIS face d'Arkened. I'll find out who. Ethan shook his head. Don't bother. Let me handle it. How? By doing what I do best.
That afternoon, he announced an open demo.
All staff invited. No RSVP required.
The next day, the main R&D floor was packed. Engineers, interns, executives, dozens of them gathered around a test rig where Ethan stood beside a 20-year-old Ford truck. This is Aiden's wind turbine, he began, holding up his son's small project. This, he said, pointing to the truck, is what most people still drive. Not because they want to, but because they have no choice. He gestured to a small electric motor retrofit he had installed under the hood.
I built this from salvaged parts. Took me a weekend.
It runs clean, costs less than a new catalytic converter, and it can be assembled by anyone with basic training.
He paused. That's what the apprenticeship is about. Not replacing engineers. Extending our reach. Bringing power to the people who need it most. Silence. Then applause.
Riley, standing in the back, didn't clap. But she didn't leave, either. Afterward, a young engineer approached Ethan. My brother just got out of the military, he said. He's good with his hands. Can I send him your way?
Ethan smiled. That's the idea.
But as the crowd dispersed, Ethan noticed someone watching from the second floor, suit, tie, tablet in hand.
It wasn't admiration. It was calculation. He'd made a new enemy. To be continued.
By the following week, whispers had begun circulating through the R&D department. Not loud, not overt, but present. Some engineers avoided eye contact. Others asked odd, half-joking questions.
So, you used to be a real mechanic. Was that truck thing even safe? Ethan noticed. He didn't react.
Instead, he worked harder. He was refining a new powertrain configuration, lightweight, modular, designed for use in lower-income markets. It was simple, reliable, and unlike anything in Whitmore's current portfolio.
And it had traction.
Riley, though still skeptical, had started consulting him more directly. She even sat with him over coffee one morning, reviewing diagnostic output.
I still don't like how you got here, she said flatly. But you're not incompetent. High praise, Ethan said. I meant it as one.
That same day, Logan stopped by his office.
We've greenlit your pilot program. First 5 apprentices. You choose them. Ethan blinked. You serious? You earned it.
It should have been a moment of celebration. But Ethan had learned to be suspicious of silence. Later that evening, while running a final stress test on the EVX engine core, Ethan noticed something strange.
Temperature data was off, just slightly.
Not wrong enough to trigger alerts, but enough to destabilize the system long-term.
He ran a quick diagnostic.
Everything checked out.
He checked again, manually. A hidden subroutine. Buried in the firmware.
A timed overload trigger, designed to cause critical failure under prolonged use.
Sabotage.
He froze, staring at the screen.
Then he checked the commit logs.
The subroutine had been inserted 2 days ago.
From a secure terminal. Under Riley's credentials.
Ethan's first instinct was disbelief. His second was anger. But his third, his deepest, quietest reaction, was caution. This wasn't just an act of sabotage.
It was a setup.
Riley was being framed.
He shut everything down.
Disconnected the engine core from the network. Pulled the firmware data to an isolated drive. The next morning, he walked into Logan's office and placed the drive on his desk.
We've got a problem, he said.
Logan plugged it in, scanned the logs, and cursed under his breath.
If this got out. It won't, Ethan said. But we need to talk to Riley.
Logan looked uncertain.
You think she did it?
I think she's the scapegoat. They found Riley in Lab 3, analyzing performance graphs. When Ethan showed her the logs, her face turned pale.
I didn't touch that engine this week, she said. I've been in another module. Your ID was used. Someone cloned it. I lock my station when I'm not there.
Logan was silent. Someone inside wants this project to fail, Ethan said. They want me discredited.
You too. Logan stood. We bring this to security. No, Riley said suddenly. That's what they want. A public investigation.
They leak it to the press, rogue mechanic corrupts core tech, and your whole apprenticeship initiative becomes radioactive.
Ethan nodded. She's right. We fix this quietly.
They spent the next 2 days combing through security logs, badge entries, and system access times.
Finally, they found it.
The real culprit.
Jonas Reeves. Senior Systems Analyst. Clean record. Ivy League. Been with Whitmore for years. Quiet. Efficient.
And deeply connected to the old guard, those who resented Logan's progressive direction and Ethan's sudden rise. They confronted him in a private conference room.
Ethan laid out the evidence. The cloned credentials.
The terminal access.
The code match. Jonas didn't deny it. You don't belong here, he said to Ethan. This place was built on pedigree. You're a fluke. A stunt. Logan stepped forward. You're fired. Jonas smirked. You can fire me.
But this company's reputation won't survive a scandal.
You're turning Whitmore into a charity. Investors won't like that. Logan narrowed his eyes.
You just gave me all the reason I needed to change things faster.
Jonas left without another word.
That evening, Riley approached Ethan as he packed up.
You could have let me take the fall. I'm not interested in easy victories. She hesitated. Thank you.
Ich shrugged.
Don't thank me. Just help me make this thing work.
For the first time, she smiled, just barely. The next morning, Whitmore Motors quietly released a press statement. Internal systems irregularity detected and resolved.
No breach.
No delay to development timeline. It was true, but sanitized.
Meanwhile, Ethan met with the first 5 apprenticeship candidates. A military veteran who'd rebuilt helicopters in Iraq. A single mother who had taught herself circuitry from YouTube videos. A community college dropout with a perfect GPA in mechanical systems. 2 high school graduates from underfunded districts with raw skill and untrained brilliance. They sat in a circle in the lab.
Nervous. Curious. Unsure.
Ethan stood before them, holding the small motor he had built from salvage parts.
This is your starting point, he said. Not theory. Practice. He paused. You're not here because you fit a mold.
You're here because you broke one.
That night, as he walked Aiden home from a science fair, the boy clutched a small trophy.
Best in show, it read. Renewable Energy Project. I'm proud of you, Ethan said. Aiden looked up. You fixed more than just an engine, didn't you? Ethan paused. I'm trying.
They walked on, shadows long in the evening light. But ahead, the path was clearer than it had ever been.
To be continued.
By the 3rd month, the apprenticeship program had become the most talked about experiment in the tech sector. It started small, an internal newsletter at Whitmore Motors praising the early success of the pilot.
Then a trade magazine picked it up. Then a podcast.
Then a local news segment, with footage of the trainees rebuilding an electric engine from scratch.
Suddenly, everyone wanted a soundbite. From grease to green, how a mechanic changed the future of clean tech. Ethan hated it.
He wasn't in this for headlines.
But attention came anyway.
With it came expectation and pressure. One afternoon, Logan walked into the lab with a tense look.
We have a problem. What kind? Ethan asked. Investor pushback.
2 of our largest stakeholders are questioning the direction of the EVX program.
Because of the apprentices?
Because of you, Logan said flatly. And the image of us shifting focus from elite innovation to what they're calling community outreach.
Ethan folded his arms. We're delivering on results. They don't care. They care about perception, profit margins, shareholder confidence. So what are you saying?
Logan hesitated. They want to see traditional talent taking the lead again.
Ivy League resumes. Recognizable names.
One of them asked if we could quietly reassign the East Pasadena guy to something behind the scenes.
Ethan stared at him. And what did you say? I told them no. Good.
But that doesn't mean this goes away. We're scheduled to present at the Global Clean Tech Expo in San Francisco. Media, government, CEOs. The whole industry. They want to see a face they recognize. I'm not going, Ethan said. You have to.
No, Ethan repeated.
Let the team speak. Let Riley present. Let the apprentices show what they've built. They're not ready. Then we get them ready. Logan sighed. This could tank the entire project if it goes wrong. Or prove it works. Outside the conference room, Riley was waiting. She had heard everything. You sure about this? She asked. No, Ethan said. But it's the right fight. Over the next 2 weeks, the lab became a pressure cooker. The 5 apprentices worked 16-hour days preparing for the demo. Riley ran drills. Ethan handled tech support and media coaching. They built a prototype, compact, modular, designed for underserved communities. Off-grid compatibility. Rapid assembly. Affordable parts.
No branding. No patents.
Just power. Ethan watched them grow into engineers, leaders, storytellers. One evening, he found Aiden waiting at the shop, trophy in hand. Another science fair? Ethan asked. No, Aiden said. Career day. They asked me what I want to be. And I said I want to build things that matter. Like you. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, You already do. The night before the expo, Ethan received an anonymous text. They're going to embarrass you. You're being set up.
No sender.
No reply. He stared at the message for a full minute. Then deleted it. At the expo, the room was packed. Lights, cameras, 100 suits watching from behind polished name tags. Logan opened the presentation with a short speech on innovation and community. Then he handed the mic to Riley. She didn't smile. She didn't joke. She spoke like a scientist with nothing to prove and everything to defend. Then came the apprentices. They presented in pairs. Explained design choices. Walked through their working model. A small electric vehicle built with parts no bigger than a washing machine motor. It powered on instantly. Clean energy. Zero noise. The room was dead silent. Then applause. Ethan didn't step on stage. He watched from the wings, arms crossed, chest tight. Afterward, reporters swarmed the booth. Not for Ethan, not for Logan, but for the apprentices. They didn't flinch, Riley said later, as they packed up. They never do, Ethan replied. But the next morning, a headline went viral. Whitmore's reckless gamble, undocumented intern linked to federal review. Ethan's phone buzzed non-stop. Someone had leaked a trainee's immigration status, intentionally, and with malice. The article was cruel, thinly sourced, filled with political insinuations. But the damage was done. By noon, government officials had called. Investors threatened to freeze funding. A conservative senator tweeted a call for immediate oversight of reckless hiring in sensitive tech sectors. Logan called Ethan into his office. This is bad, he said. I know. They're demanding we shut the program down.
No.
Then they'll pull their money. Ethan stood. Then let them. You're asking me to risk everything. No, Ethan said. I'm asking you to choose what kind of company you want this to be. That night, Riley sent Ethan a message.
Come to the lab.
Now. He arrived to find the entire apprentice team there. We're not quitting, one said. We came here to change our lives. We're not letting some headline take it away. Ethan looked at them. I can't promise this won't get worse, he said. We're used to worse, another said. Riley nodded. We'll fight this. Together. They stayed up all night drafting a statement. They called it, The Right to Build. A video.
No branding.
Just stories. Faces. Proof of work. They uploaded it at dawn. By noon, it had 1 million views. By evening, 10. And by the next day, the world was watching. To be continued. By the end of the week, the video had reached over 25 million views. Comments poured in from all corners of the world. Finally, an engineering revolution we can be part of.
My daughter just watched this and said she wants to be an apprentice. This isn't charity. This is justice. Major tech influencers reposted it. Several community colleges used it in orientation. Even Tesla's CTO tweeted a single word in response. Respect. At Whitmore Motors, the energy shifted. Executives who had previously been silent now wanted meetings. Riley was invited to speak on an industry panel. Logan's office overflowed with press requests and partnership proposals. But Ethan remained cautious. This could still implode, he told Riley during a late-night strategy meeting. Or explode, she replied. In the good way. He smiled. For once, it felt like they were on the same page. And then came the message from Geneva. The United Nations Green Innovation Task Force was inviting Ethan and the apprentice team to present their modular EV technology at the Global Sustainability Summit. The invitation wasn't just symbolic, it included a grant, lab access, and global exposure. Logan brought it to Ethan himself. This is it, Logan said. International platform. Real change. You in? Ethan didn't answer right away. Instead, he visited the garage where it all began. The small space behind a laundromat in East Pasadena. The cracked cement floor. The shelves lined with salvaged parts. The smell of old oil and new dreams. Aiden sat on the workbench, soldering a small solar-powered charger. You going to Switzerland? He asked. Maybe, Ethan replied. Would you come with me? Aiden shrugged. Do they have hot chocolate? Best in the world. Later that night, Ethan called a meeting with the apprentices and Riley. If we go to Geneva, he said, everything changes. We're not just a project anymore. We're a movement. That means attention, pressure, and people who will try to buy what we built. You think they'll try to steal it? Asked Jasmine, the former community college student. No, Ethan said. They'll offer to buy it, license it, own it, wrap it in branding. Dilute the message until it's just another product. So what do we do? Ethan looked around the table. We open source it. Silence. Riley was the first to speak. You want to give it away? Not give away the work, Ethan clarified. Give away the design, the knowledge. Make it impossible for any one company to own it. You know what that means, right? She asked.
No patents.
No profit. No monopoly, he replied. This tech was built by people who were never meant to build. Let's make sure it stays with them. The team voted. Unanimous. 2 days later, Whitmore Motors published the open-source plans to the modular EV engine under a Creative Commons license. The move sent shockwaves through the industry. Some called it reckless. Others called it revolutionary.
One headline read.
The garage mechanic who outsmarted Silicon Valley. In response, Ethan released a video statement. This technology belongs to the people who need it most. We're not selling solutions. We're sharing them. At the Global Summit in Geneva, the team was received like pioneers. Aiden, wearing a miniature suit, stood proudly beside his father on stage. They demonstrated the engine, answered questions from world leaders, spoke with NGOs, energy ministers, and environmental activists. And when a South African delegate asked if the engine could be adapted for rural clinics, Ethan smiled. Yes. And we'll help you do it. But success brought new dilemmas. After the summit, Logan called an emergency meeting. Several corporations have offered partnerships, massive investment, manufacturing scale. But they want exclusivity.
Private labeling.
They want to profit off what we just gave away, Riley said. Logan nodded. They say we can still own the brand. Control the narrative. Ethan looked tired. That's not the point. But what if we could build something even bigger? Logan pressed. An institute. A school. A global network of clean energy apprentices. That takes money. Ethan turned to the team. What do you think? Jasmine leaned forward. If we take the money, we build it on our terms.
No branding. No gatekeeping.
Aiden added, but we make sure no one gets left behind. Ethan nodded. Then we negotiate. carefully.
Within a month, Whitmore Motors announced the creation of the Forge, an independent, non-profit accelerator for clean tech apprenticeships.
Funded by public-private grants. Led by engineers, not marketers. Open to anyone with hands, heart, and curiosity. And Ethan refused the CEO title. "I'll be head of training," he said. "Let someone else do the boardroom dance." He appointed Riley as director of innovation. Logan remained chairman, but stepped back from operations. In the first cohort, over 300 applicants were accepted. From war zones, refugee camps, rural towns, and urban neighborhoods. They came with calloused hands and open minds. And they built things. Real things. Turbines that lit up forgotten villages. Engines that ran on sun and sweat. Batteries repurposed from obsolete laptops. Hope carved into metal. Ethan watched from a second-floor window as the newest team assembled their first prototype. "They don't need me anymore," he said to Riley. "That's the point," she replied. Back at home, Aidan framed a headline from an international magazine. "Ethan Cole, the mechanic who turned a wrench into a revolution." He hung it beside his science fair ribbon. And just before bedtime he asked, "So what's next, Dad?" Ethan smiled. "We build a world where you won't have to ask that question." To be continued. The call came at 6:42 a.m. Ethan was making pancakes when his phone buzzed with a sharp, persistent ring that told him something was wrong. He answered. It was Logan. "You need to get to the Forge. Now." By the time Ethan arrived, Riley was already outside the gate, arms crossed, face pale. "What's going on?" She pointed at the screen mounted above the entrance. A breaking news segment was airing. The anchor's voice was sharp, deliberate. An anonymous whistleblower has released documents allegedly showing mismanagement and unsafe practices inside the Forge apprenticeship program. Ethan stepped closer, heart pounding. The screen changed to display scanned internal memos, redacted names, out-of-context quotes. And then, an image of an early prototype that had overheated during testing. "That was never meant for deployment," Riley said. "It wasn't even finished." "They know that," Ethan replied. Inside the Forge, the atmosphere was tense. Apprentices stood clustered near the workstations. Some looked angry. Others scared. In the boardroom, Logan laid out the rest. A group of legacy manufacturers just filed an injunction. They're claiming that we violated proprietary IP when we open-sourced the EV module. "That's a lie," Ethan said. "They know it's a lie," Logan replied. "But it's enough to drag us into court. And into the press." Riley leaned forward. "So what's their endgame?" "Discredit us. Drain us. Destroy us." Ethan sat down, hands clasped. "They waited until we were big enough to threaten them. And now they want to make an example of you," Logan said. Over the next few days, the storm intensified. Headlines swung between admiration and outrage. From garage to global, the rise and fall of a hero engineer. Inside the Forge, innovation or irresponsibility? Opposing op-eds debated Ethan's qualifications, his past, his choices. Television hosts called him naive. Industry leaders accused him of destabilizing the sector. And then came the subpoenas. Depositions. Hearings. Audits. The Forge was under siege. "We need to pause operations," one board member said. "We'll lose momentum," Riley warned. "We'll lose everything if we get shut down by a court order," Logan replied. Ethan listened, silent. Later that night, he sat with Aidan in their living room. The boy was quiet, watching him. "Are you in trouble?" he finally asked. "Yes," Ethan said. "But not the kind we run from." "Then what do you do?" Ethan looked at him. "We tell the truth. Loudly." The next morning, Ethan and Riley held a press conference in the Forge's central lab.
No switch. No filters.
Just them. "The accusations against us are designed to distract and divide," Ethan began. "But we won't be silenced." Riley stepped forward. "We opened our technology because the world needs solutions more than it needs secrets. We stand by our work. And by the people doing it." They released full documentation of the EV module's development, timestamp designs, lab notes,
video logs of the apprentices building it by hand. They launched a new initiative, Forge Verified, inviting any third party, school or organization to inspect, replicate, and test the designs.
No more gatekeepers, Ethan said. If it works, prove it.
Public response was overwhelming. Scientists, engineers, and activists around the world volunteered their own findings. They uploaded independent tests confirming the safety and originality of the Forge engine. The narrative began to shift again. But the opposition didn't back down. At the federal hearing in Washington, Ethan took the stand. He wore a plain shirt, no tie. He looked at the senators without fear. "Mr. Cole," one of them asked, "do you have a degree in engineering?"
"No," Ethan said.
"But I've rebuilt engines that kept ambulances running in heat waves. I've trained mechanics who now teach in 3 countries. And I've led a team that built a modular EV system using nothing but recycled parts and stubborn belief."
Another senator leaned in. "Do you believe innovation should be open to anyone?"
"Yes," Ethan said. "Especially those who've been told they don't belong." Outside the chamber, hundreds gathered in silent protest. Many were wearing Forge apprentice shirts. One sign read, "Let the people build." The final turning point came from an unexpected place. A former executive at one of the legacy firms, retired, disillusioned, went on record. He confirmed the lawsuit was a smear campaign. "They're afraid," he said. "Not because of poor engineering, but because they didn't think of it first." The case was dropped 2 weeks later.
No επάλεγει.
But a clear message. The Forge had survived. That night, the apprentices threw a small celebration. Music. Food. Laughter that hadn't been heard in weeks. Riley pulled Ethan aside. "You good?" He looked around at the room. Jasmine teaching new trainees how to solder. Aiden talking to a visitor from a Kenyan solar cooperative. Logan clinking glasses with 3 women who used to work in Detroit factories. "I'm tired," Ethan said. But I've never been more sure." She nodded. "You think they'll stop?" "No," he said. "They'll come back. Stronger. Then we build stronger too." Outside, the sign on the building glowed in the night. "The Forge." Underneath, a new line had been added. "Built by everyone. For everyone. To be continued." 1 year later, the Forge had become more than a place. It was a movement. Over 30 satellite programs had opened across the globe, in Kenya, Indonesia, Peru, and Appalachia. Some were built in repurposed factories, others in shipping containers or community halls. Wherever there was need, the Forge blueprint traveled. And everywhere it went, it adapted. The technology changed with climate, resources, and culture. The people didn't just receive knowledge, they shaped it. Ethan stood on a hill overlooking the newest site, a desert lab in southern Arizona. Behind him, the wind turbines spun slow and steady under a cloudless sky. He felt older now. Not tired, not worn, just aware. Riley stepped beside him, a tablet in hand. "We got the figures back. Rural battery storage down 37%. Emergency energy access up 80%. EV repairs cut in half." He smiled. "Not bad for a bunch of misfits." "You say that like it's a bad thing," she replied. Back in Pasadena, the original Forge still buzzed. Apprentices came and went. Some stayed to teach. Others launched co-ops in their hometowns. One went back to her refugee camp with tools and blueprints. Another, Jasmine, had become the director of the Southside Forge in Chicago. Ethan only returned to the original shop once a week now. Not to fix. Not to lead. Just to remember. One morning, he found Aiden in the garage, fiddling with a dismantled circuit board. "You know we've got a full lab now," Ethan said. "I know," Aiden replied, not looking up. "But I like it here." Ethan chuckled. "I'm applying to MIT," Aiden added casually. Ethan froze. "And NYU. And Stanford. Just in case." "You're serious?" "Yeah. I want to build scalable urban mobility. Something for places with zero infrastructure. Maybe modular rail." Ethan sat down next to him, hands calloused, heart full. "I never made it to college," he said. "I know," Aiden replied.
But I carry everything you built.
Later that month, the Forge hosted its first global summit.
Not in a hotel ballroom. Not behind velvet ropes.
But outdoors, in an open pavilion lined with solar panels and wildflowers.
Attendees brought their own chairs.
Meals were cooked by local families. Panels included former mechanics, high school teachers, and a teenage girl who had just built her town's first public charging station using recycled parts.
Ethan gave the final address.
He didn't speak from a stage, just stood in the grass with a microphone.
When we started this, I didn't have a plan. Just a busted engine and a reason to keep fixing.
He looked out at the crowd. I've learned that skill is universal, but access is not.
Potential is everywhere, but opportunity isn't.
We were never trying to make the best engineers, we were trying to make sure no one had to wait for one.
Applause rose, not loud, but steady.
Legacy isn't what you build, he continued. It's what others build because you gave them tools. Later that evening, Riley joined him by the edge of the pavilion. You ever think about what would have happened if you'd said no that night on the freeway?
Ethan smiled. All the time.
And
I would have fixed a car and driven home. That's all.
You sure?
Yeah.
And missed everything that came after. They stood in silence, watching the sun sink behind distant turbines. Then, a message came through Riley's tablet. A new Forge lab had just launched, in a prison rehabilitation center in South Korea. One of the trainers was a former apprentice.
Ethan closed his eyes.
He remembered the noise of his old shop, the smell of sweat and gasoline, the nights with Aiden asleep in the corner while he soldered in silence.
The sting of loss, the weight of hope. It all lived here now. In every lab, every tool, every hand that refused to give up.
Weeks later, Ethan began writing again.
Not manuals. Not designs. Letters. To people he'd met. People he hadn't.
People who were building in silence.
Dear Layla.
You said your town never had electricity after dark. I read that you've built 2 solar hubs. That's more light than I ever installed.
Keep going. Dear Mateo.
You fixed a wind turbine with 3 paperclips and a hammer. That's not poor engineering. That's brilliance with no budget.
We see you.
Dear future apprentice. You may not have a lab,
or tools,
or even a place to learn. But if you've ever taken something broken and made it move again, you belong with us.
Sincerely, Ethan Cole, mechanic.
That letter was printed and hung in every Forge site around the world.
Not because it was poetic, but because it was true.
In a world still grappling with inequality, climate change and disconnection, a blueprint had spread, not just for engines, but for belonging.
It said, you don't need permission to build. You don't need a title to teach.
You don't need to be known to be powerful.
You just need to start.
And when you do, you won't be alone. Because somewhere, in a sun-drenched garage or a cold metal hangar, someone else is doing the same.
This is the legacy. Not of one man, but of many.
Of hands that never stopped. Of voices that refused silence. Of machines that hummed with purpose. And of hope, sparked into motion.